Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kate Hamilton Health Podcast. So, today's episode is absolutely fantastic. I love when this happens, when I have a conversation with someone and it just ends up being pure gold. And this is exactly what this episode is like with Nicole Quigley. So, Nicole is a fat loss coach and founder of Diet Starts Monday, a brand and coaching platform dedicated to helping women lose weight without losing their minds. Her message is bold, honest, and refreshingly realistic. Sustainable fat loss doesn't come from guilt, punishment, or endless restarts on a Monday. It comes from mindset consistency and compassion. Nicole works with women who are exhausted from yo yo dieting, food guilt, and chasing quick fixes. She helps them break free from the all or nothing cycle, develop habits that can actually stick, and build confidence around food, training, and body image. With her no BS high support coaching style, she brings a mix of tough love and genuine empathy to every conversation. After experiencing her own struggles with body image and restriction, Nicole created Diet Starts Monday to show women there's another way, one that works long term and doesn't feel like self sabotage disguised as discipline. Through her online coaching, content, and community, she empowers women to take control of their health in a way that actually finally feels good. In this conversation, we talk about mainly around the topic of binge eating and emotional eating. We talk about how important it is to dig deep into your emotions. And that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they're not willing to do that deep work, or they're not aware that they need to do that deep work in order to make the changes that need to be made for it to actually stick. We talk a lot about strategies to overcome these cycles that we just can't seem to free ourselves from. And then we talk a lot around just in general establishing a healthy lifestyle that actually is going to stick. Her perspective, her attitude towards everything is just so refreshing. It was just such a helpful, such an amazing conversation. And I think that this conversation is going to help a lot of people. So here is the episode with Nicole Quigley. Nicole, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. So good to see you.
It is so good to have a catch up. I'd say it's probably over a year since no, not over a year.
November.
Speaking to you in November. But yeah, God, time is just flying by. So I suppose for anyone who doesn't know who you are, would you like to just share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
God, I never know what to say to that. So my name is Nicole. I'm an online health coach. I work mostly with people with binge eating disorders and poor emotional relationships with food. So emotional eating, binge eating, diet starts Monday cycle, who are always saying diet starts Monday, who can't stick to anything, feel like they're constantly on a diet. That is my people. That's my wheelhouse. You come to me, babies, I look after you. That's all good. So I totally get that. And how did that start? So basically, I'm from Tyrone. I'm 35. It was my birthday last week. What else have I got to? I'm an only child. I have a dog and a cat. I moved back with my parents in September. I am obsessed with Italy and Greece and what else? Disney and Harry Potter and country music and cheese. So that's pretty much all about me.
Oh, I love that random stuff. Italy, cheese, Disneyland, Harry Potter.
And country music, don't forget that.
And country music. I love it. Love it. Yeah, no, I could get on board with any of those as well, to be fair.
Yeah,
so your Instagram page is called Diet Starts Monday.
Correct.
Talk to me a little bit more about this name, where that came from, and what the mindset behind what you do in relation to this, I suppose, is.
Okay, so Diet Starts on Monday started in 2017. It's a really weird way how this started. So I decided I wanted to be a magazine editor back whenever I was about 17. And this was before the world opened up. Like, that's one thing we do have to thank COVID and lockdown for, is that the world opened up in a way online. Now you can do sort of anything from anywhere. Whereas back then, if you wanted experience in a magazine or any sort of editorial content, I basically wanted to be Miranda Priestley, which meant I would have had to move to London, and I couldn't afford to do that. So I was like, right, how am I going to I had this dream from when I was 17. And then whenever I was working with a life coach at the time, who was a friend of mine, and me and her kind of put a plan together that we were going to basically, I actually had decided I wanted to start blogging, because I was like, if I can create my own brand and my own sort of content and sort of stuff like that, then I can take that into an interview and be like, well, look, I have experience, because experience is something you need, especially if you're going into content, into a work or a field like that. It's very hard to get experience. you spend a lot of time working for free. Again, I obviously couldn't afford to do that. So I was like, okay, I'll carve out my own sort of niche. And then it was kind of just whenever Zoella was starting to take off, the whole YouTube buzz. And I was following a lot of YouTubers and bloggers there. And I was like, I could do that. So I started on YouTube and started doing vlogging then. So basically I had gained a lot of weight during and after university. And then I just sort of documented the process of losing that. And then it sort of grew. And I did lose the weight and that was grand. I was flying. And then I moved and put it back on again. And then lost it again. And then I moved and put it back on again. And it seems to be like every time I moved house to a city or something, then I would actually put the weight back on again. And then I realized and it was so funny because I was sitting at work whenever I decided on my blog, because I was going to call it something different. And then I was like, I'm going to call it Diet Starts Monday, because that's one thing my mum said, I'm going to put that on your bloody headstone, because I was always saying it. And then it just sort of worked that way. And then I realized I was actually stuck in a Diet Starts Monday cycle. And I don't think I realized that until about a long time after I started it. I was only over lockdown. I was like, hang on a second, this is a cycle. I'm constantly starting and stopping and starting and stopping, and I can't just maintain healthy habits. So then that was what actually sparked the catalyst for me to realize that this isn't just a me thing. This is like, especially in this country, because women have such poor relationships with food and their bodies. And I think it comes from a lot of our mums and aunties and stuff being on diets and yo-yo dieting and all that there sort of stuff. And it just, yeah. So I basically then decided I wanted to coach, became qualified as a coach, did a couple of other qualifications in like mental health and counselling and like food relationships and different bits and bobs like that. And now it's grown into something that I am super proud of. It's a really amazing community of women, and it's about breaking that Diet Starts Monday cycle and creating healthy, sustainable habits that mean that you never have to worry about this horrible yo-yo diet and bollocks again. Because that is what a lot of people do, is they'll over restrict and then maybe not see what they want. It'll last like 10 days to 2 weeks, and then they'll put on more weight, or they'll last for like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then it'll ricochet back into something else. So it's just about actually doing it in a way that's sustainable. And sometimes that's a bit sore, which a lot of people can find very frustrating. So that you need a coach who can handle the tantrum that comes with that. And I am no stranger to those tantrums. I throw them myself quite regularly. So you need somebody who can actually kind of hold your hand and be like, you're not mental, it's fine.
It sounds so much like kind of the approach that we take within my own coaching service as well. And I think the healthiest thing that you can do when you start on like your health and fitness journey is realizing that there's no end date. That
Yeah.
it's
There's
not
no
like, take the fucking time limits off. Like, why do you have to be a size 10 by Christmas? Why do you have to be a whatever, well,
no
like,
to
first of all, like letting go of these numbers, letting go of these dates, and just being, it is really very much one step at a time, and learning to kind of lose yourself in the process. What would you say is like the first step? So how do you break this Diet Starts Monday cycle for you, like for you or your clients? Like, is it different for each person, or do you think that there's one step that really needs to be taken first to get out of this cycle?
Well, I think it's about looking at where you're at and the reason you're doing it for. Just even you saying about dates, like I set myself a goal last summer that I wanted to lose 70 pounds in a year, which is, it's a hard goal, but it's a doable goal. But that was me totally bound. Like, the reason I set that goal was TikTok comments. That was the reason I set that goal. It was because they got in my head and I felt unworthy, and it was affecting my mental health and my ability to do my job, because I didn't believe that I was worthy of it. So I think you need to look at why you're doing it and what you're doing it for and how you're doing it and who you're doing that to please. I think that is a really, really important thing. And I think you have to be really honest about where you're at and be okay with the sacrifices that need to be made. So basically, the question you asked me was, what would be the first step? Did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the first step is getting really honest about where you're at right now. Because, for instance, like myself, I would, in the mistakes I'd made previously, I would be like, I eat so healthy. And don't get me wrong, my meals were brilliant. There was fruit, there was veg, there was a lot of protein in there. Like, it was all home cooked stuff. It was all really, really good. But I was like binging 3 times a week and smashing 6,000 or 7,000 calories in those binges, and then like properly having what I call food amnesia. And because I wasn't tracking, I convinced myself I hadn't done it, and telling myself it was normal, and being like, okay, no, but like everyone treats themselves in the weekend. Like 2 share bars, like share bars of crisps, a tiny Chinese takeaway, 2 bottles of Prosecco is not a treat. That is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? So it's about being really honest about where you're at. So I think getting honest with you is step number 1. And actually looking at, what do you want to change? Why do you want to change? That is, what do you want from it? So people be like, I just want to lose weight. Say, I just want to lose this stone I've put on. Right, okay, why? Why do you want to lose the stone you've put on? Is it because you have decided that this number on the scale is you're just not who you say you are if you don't do that? Or is it because your clothes feel uncomfortable, which is a totally fair reason? Is it something else that someone else has told you? Like, I remember whenever I was younger, I set a goal for myself that I wanted to be 8 stone, hit it bang on the nose, turned to my mum, said, "Oh my God, I'm 8 stone." And she said 7 stone 11 would be a great weight for you. And she was constantly pushing the boundaries and the goalposts. And that's where my binging and my emotional eating relationships came from, is my relationship with my mum. Now, I'm very lucky. I have a mum who was willing to do the work. Me and her have been to a lot of therapy. There's a lot of time and money in the bank. They're done. We have had many sessions about it, and we're great now. And even now, the conversations we've had about it are amazing. So that was for me where I kind of went, "Oh, fuck it, I'm never going to be thin enough for her, so it doesn't matter, I'll just give up." And that was whenever I just took out and started eating what I want from that day. And it just went constant then. So I think you have to be really honest about where you're at and where that came from. And that takes a bit of self-examination and exploration. And that's something I do in my consultation call with my clients. And I always say my coaching is like if therapy and coaching had a baby. And coaching is one side of it, therapy is another. Like, you have to figure out, where did you learn that you have to finish your plate? Where did you learn that you come bottom of the pecking order? People pleasing is a massive thing for my clients. They're mostly people pleasers or recovering people pleasers, and it's because then they put everybody else above themselves and they don't make time for themselves, and then it's just creates a snowball effect that they'll make sure that their kids are eating the most nutritious food, but they're having a pot noodle, and their kids are getting fresh air and getting outside and exercising, but they're lying on the sofa completing TikTok because they're so overwhelmed and exhausted. So it's about actually, again, looking at where you're at, being honest with yourself, and figuring out where your relationship with yourself and with food and your body came from.
Yeah, that's so, so powerful. And like, I think that all of that initial deep work, you cannot push forward with these physical changes or these
Mm-hmm.
routine habit lifestyle changes until you get to the bottom of this. But the problem is, a lot of people give up before they won't put in that work that needs to go in of self exploration. And I think a lot of it can be, first of all, just impatience, because they don't want to, they just like, I just want to lose the weight. Or
Mm-hmm.
else it can be really, really uncomfortable. So a lot of the
Yeah.
times, if we overeat or we overdrink or whatever we do, whatever habits we have in place, it's to kind of numb ourselves a little bit, because we're afraid to feel what needs to be felt, to face what needs to be faced. And we can be really unaware of it as well. With that approach, there'd be a lot of journaling going on, I'd imagine.
Sometimes it depends on the client, to be honest. Journaling can only really take you so far. I think it just depends on kind of how deep rooted the traumas are and what works for them. I think journaling is a really good way to get like your thoughts. It feels like if they're in a ball of yarn, it's a really good way to get them like in a straight line, which is a great idea, so you can actually see them. Because sometimes when you're overwhelmed, it's like a washing machine up there, like the darks and the whites and the colors are just all mishmashing. Like the red socks are bleeding into the white t-shirt. You can't make sense of everything. Do you know what I mean? So it's about actually managing your thoughts in that way. So journaling is a part of it. Yeah, for sure. We do some of that. But I think it's more a lot of conversation and a lot of, again, like I said, I do a lot of one-to-one coaching calls, and they're more like therapy sessions. So it's about working that sort of stuff. But it's also a lot of habit loop formation. So, for example, it's about rewiring your brain to respond to a trigger differently. So, for instance, take myself. Whenever I realized what my binge triggers were, being left in the house by myself was a trigger for a binge. And the reason was because whenever I was growing up, I couldn't really eat without comment being passed on what I was eating or on my body as a result of that. Even if I was eating something healthy, it was like, "Are you eating again?" or something like that. So then whenever I was left in the house by myself, my brain went instantly go, "What can I eat?" Immediately, straight away. It was like, "Oh my God, how much food can I get into my body until there's someone back in this house?" And it was carnage, like anything I could get in, like caramel waffles I didn't even like. But then I realized that even just watching the tail lights of my dad's car go around the edge of the driveway, that was enough to set a trigger off, and my brain would instantly go, "What I eat, or what do I need to eat, or what can I eat?" So instead of actually responding to that trigger, which is the usual reward, I would do a wee bit of box breathing, or actually ask myself, why do I want to eat right now? And then it's a lot of inner child work too. It's reparenting your inner child, because it's a lot of reassurance of yourself that food isn't going anywhere, and you have to sort of relearn that, because whenever I was younger, like I was hiding food in my drawers, I was hiding food in handbags and stuff so that I would be able to eat outside the house. I was eating in my car a lot of the time in secret because I just couldn't bear that. Like it was just easier to not eat than it was to deal with the sort of comments that were passed. So that's where I picked it up, and it's about being really honest with that and figuring out what the trigger is and then responding to that differently. So now, for instance, if I'm left in the house and I get a binge trigger, because the trigger's still there sometimes, and like sometimes I don't even notice it, and it's great progress whenever like I'm left in the house on my own and working away for an hour, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I didn't get triggered, which is great. But also it's very important to realize that sometimes that trigger will fire off depending on like how overwhelmed you're feeling, or whether or not like you're in week 4 of your cycle, or if you're sad or tired or anything like that. Sometimes the trigger will still fire, and it's about how you respond to that. So for instance, like my dog who is asleep in the corner, he's my wee baby son. So basically what I do with him is, like, if I notice myself getting triggered, I took him out for a game. I can't say because he's in the room, but
Oh yeah.
basically we take a tennis racket and a tennis ball and throw it up the field, and then he
Yeah.
runs after it. It's all very cute. He gets dopamine, I get to watch him. It's all like takes me out of my mind and into my body. So there's a lot of habit rewiring as well, and getting very honest with yourself. And I think emotional eating is another one. People will say that you eat to fill a void, and I think that's a really dangerous mentality and picture to put in someone's head, because it puts the idea that there is a void inside them, like a pit that needs to be filled with food. And then whenever your subconscious hears that there's a void, it will put stuff in to fill it. So then you'll get all these different sort of like urges and triggers and cravings for different things like that. But what actually is happening is it's actually emotional suppressive consumption. So for your brain is hardwired to keep you alive. And in order for you to stay alive, as far as your brain is concerned, you need to stay comfortable. Okay. So your brain sees discomfort as death. And it doesn't matter if that discomfort is physical, emotional, mental, anything like that. So it'll be like, oh my God, there's an uncomfortable emotion about to come up. Let me fire off a craving to smush it down. So rather than like having this idea of like a pit inside you that needs to be filled with something, it's actually something that is trying to come up that your brain then tries to shove down. So let's say, for instance, rejection or loneliness, or any of those sort of triggers. If you're feeling rejected, feeling lonely, feeling upset, ashamed, any of those different things can be any of those emotions. So let's go with rejection, because that was a big trigger for me whenever I figured all this out. So say something has happened, you have a conversation with a friend. For me, it was something to do with a holiday. Whenever I actually twigged onto this, there was something to do with a holiday in which I felt that I was disinvited from the holiday. That wasn't actually what was happening, but that's how I interpreted. And then I saw that as rejection. Then for like my brain, it was fine whenever my brain was occupied, but after work, the triggers and the binge urges and the cravings came really, really strongly for 3 to 4 days. So let's say your brain has this, or you have this feeling in your solar plexus, which are stored in your stomach, and the emotion of rejection wants to come up. So your brain can already feel that this emotion is there. That's why we get butterflies and that sort of feeling like you've been kicked in the stomach. So rather than go, okay, I feel rejected, your brain will be like, let me shove this down. And that's why it'll send a trigger that's usually something very specific. I want Peking chicken from Wafu and Finnegan. I want like a curry cheesy chip from this chip. I want pickled onion monster munch. And it'll be very, very specific a lot of the time when it comes to emotional eating. And it's because it's trying to get you to seek something that will shove the emotion down. So if that emotion is trying to come up from the stomach, your brain will be like, oh no, this emotion is uncomfortable. We're going to die. Let me actually pick up something that's going to shove that emotion down, so it will cause you to eat. And then what will actually leave you feeling, that's why it kind of feels like a compulsion as well. It's because it's a survival tactic and a survival instinct. That's how your subconscious brain sees it. So it's about actually taking a wee breath for yourself and going, hang on a wee second. Do I actually want a Chinese, or have I been triggered earlier in the day that's made me feel rejected, overwhelmed, ashamed, sad, whatever? Let me just sit with this for a second. And then if you just sit with it for a wee minute, 9 times out of 10, the emotion will come up. 9 times out of 10, it won't actually feel as horrible as you think it's going to feel. So say, for example, if you actually allow yourself to feel rejected and then sort of take a deep breath and reparent that, it sounds very airy-fairy and a bit woo-woo, but actually we are all just adults with an inner child inside us. Like, it's, you've seen Avatar, the inner child's driving the meat wagon. That's all it is. And you just need to constantly, nobody tells you when you grow up that it's your job to parent yourself. And most of your emotions, triggers, anything else like that will come from a wounded inner child. So it's about nurturing that smaller version of you and saying like, okay, so say your friend, again, let's say this holiday, my friend rejected me from that holiday. That's very sad. That's very hurtful. It's not nice. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. How about we actually arrange a conversation with her and talk it out? Because it probably isn't. If she doesn't want you to go on holiday and she wants to go with just her partner, then that's absolutely okay. She's very much within her rights to do that. That doesn't mean she loves you any less. But why do you feel so sad? Oh, because it means so much to me to go to this holiday and I'm actually single and don't have a partner to go on holiday with. So then that leaves me feeling isolated and alone. And whenever I get rejected, it hurts more because I have nobody to fall back on and they do. And then actually going, oh, okay, yeah, that's actually how I feel. And then if you get a wee bit emotional about it, like I'm getting emotional thinking about that now, have a wee cry, let yourself like have a wee moment where you're just like, God, I'm really lonely, or I'm really sad, or I feel rejected, and all that there sort of stuff. And that is like, that's why like there's tears in my eyes now, because I'm just like, I just process that emotion even from memory. I'm just going like, that's how it feels, is because like I don't feel like I have anybody who I can be like, let's go do this with. I don't have a partner that I can grab and go. Do you know what I mean? It's just about pinpointing that. And then whenever you have that way emotional release, sometimes you'll have a cry, sometimes you'll scream into a pillow, sometimes it'll just be an acknowledgement to the feeling, and that's plenty. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just depends how big the emotion is, what it's around, and stuff like that. And then whenever you process it that way, I would say I would 99% of the time the craving goes.
You have given so much value in what you've just spoken about there. I've literally been making notes because I need to unpack this, okay? There's loads of things coming to my mind that I want to kind
I
of talk
can't tell
about
a
here.
short story. I'm so sorry. It's proper
No,
drama. I'm
no,
going in circles as well.
that was probably one of the most valuable few minutes that this podcast has heard in a while. Like, honest
Oh,
to God,
thank
like
you.
Nicole, like that was amazing. Okay, but first of all, what came up with for me there, right, when you were talking about that really strong emotion coming up that you feel like you need to push down, that you can't handle it, and you were talking about that as a negative emotion, I can relate to that when it comes to a positive emotion, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm really excited about something, it's like my nervous system can't handle it. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
if I was like really excited about going out at the weekend too. So like, I'm more talking about when I was a bit younger, or, if I was really excited about going on holidays, or, whatever, like the excitement that come up, I used to suppress that with alcohol. Like, because I couldn't
Cool.
process it myself. I just couldn't. The excitement would just be too much for me, like that butterfly feeling in my stomach. So I used to suppress that with alcohol or with cigarettes. Like, so and like for years, because I started smoking at quite a young teenager, and it took me to my like late 20s to kick the habit. Like, so, but again, it was that feeling, that excitement of like, so smoking or drinking would have always done that for me in the past. When I think about myself now, and I'm like, I don't get excited about things in the same way. So I think in a way I'm less up and down. I'm probably more calm in general, like that. I'm more, because I've done a lot of work on myself. And I think as you get older and you get into your 30s, you do get a little bit more level. So
Speak for
it's not
yourself.
us.
Speak for yourself. I
Myself,
suspect
depends. We all have
probably.
moments. But maybe, yeah. And now that I'm kind of thinking out loud on this, and in relation to myself, I don't know what I've replaced it with, but I'm going to do a little reflection on that, and I'm going to have to, like, because I'm like, I don't experience the ups and downs anymore. I don't drink at all anymore because I can't, because like, it's just because then I have ups and downs, and it's really not good for my mental health. But I just think that was just a really, really interesting point that you made about the emotion, because like I would probably, like with food as well, it would much more be, I'm much more likely to want to eat loads and loads in an exciting situation rather than a traumatic situation. Like when I feel emotions come up in me like that are negative, I very much either want to sleep or cry. So like I think my body is quite good at releasing the emotions. And like I think you saying that, like crying it out and screaming it out, and moving your body or whatever it is that's going to help move that emotion, that's just such a powerful way. Because what I kind of teach my clients to do is the idea, like you've said it basically there, creating the gap when you have that experience, when you feel that really, that trigger that happens, that strong emotion. And even actually when you say about being left in the house on your own, or like your parents like tail light just out of the driveway, for me that was get out the back garden and have a cigarette. When I was growing up, it was like anytime they'd be gone, like out the back smoking, like, you know what I mean? It was, and like, it's funny, and it will still trigger me sometimes. I would never have a cigarette anymore, like, but it would still, every now and again I'd be like, oh,
Ooh, a fancy
cigarette would
one.
be nice right now. Oh wait, no, I don't do that anymore.
No,
You know what
totally.
I mean?
Like, I still, even now, all I have to do is think about my dad, like think about the image of my dad's car going around the corner, and I'm just like, right,
Yeah, the excitement of
Yeah,
like, "Oh, what
100%.
am I gonna get up to now?"
Yeah, 100%. And I think
But
it's like, as you say, it's just like those emotions. It doesn't have to necessarily be a negative one. It can just be a big one that like you can't process. It's like, whenever you see a dog and they're so excited they can't stop shaking. It's
yeah,
like that they get like a little bum wiggle, and it can be anything as simple as a conversation, or just like, it doesn't have to be a whole big release of like screaming and crying. It can just be like a single wee like well up, and just a wee moment of like, oh my god, I just needed to cry for like 30 seconds, and that's all it can like. It doesn't have to be. People think that emotional release has to be like this crazy thing. Sometimes it can just be the feeling come up and a breath, and that's enough. It just
yeah,
depends. But the
yeah,
thing as well is that when it comes to those triggers, and this is very important, so if you take one thing from this podcast, take this. Sometimes these triggers, and oftentimes if you have a trigger, you will notice that your response is like go, 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 respond now, quick,
yeah,
quick, 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 quick.
yeah,
And the reason that is happening, and my therapist pointed this out, because you might notice I talk very quickly. I am motor mouth. Like, there's a lot of words going there. And a lot of the time it's an autopilot. A lot of the time it's because there's a lot of stuff going up there. But also that is a habit. And the reason that habit was created is basically, if you're a self-sabotager, you'll notice, especially if you have been a drinker in the past, it's next drink, next drink, next drink, next drink, until you're in the black hole and you don't know what happened. Same with binging. Like, people will literally say things like, oh, before I knew it, the packet of biscuits was in me, or like, before I knew it, like, I had the whole pizza eaten, or before I knew it, I had the whole packet of crisps gone. And it leaves you feeling very confused. But the reason is your subconscious gets you to operate at such a speed that your inner child doesn't, which is also like your conscious brain and your conscience, doesn't get a chance to go, hang on a wee second, what are you doing?
I just wanted to interrupt the podcast for a moment to talk to you a little bit about Kate Hamilton Health online coaching. So we have two coaching options available. We have our elite coaching and we have our group coaching service. Our elite coaching service is bespoke, individualized coaching, which will help you to finally break free from diet culture with one-to-one anytime support from your coach and with access to a safe, supportive community. This is a higher ticket coaching option, and the coaching is by application only. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will be able to apply for elite coaching through there, and we will be in touch to organize a call and to get you up and running. In relation to our group coaching starts on the first Monday of every month. When it's full each month, we do close the doors. With the group coaching is about building the habits, body, and energy of the healthiest version of yourself and finally make it stick. We include personalized calories and portions, food lists, recipes, meal plan ideas, step goals, home or gym based workouts, depending on what you want, changed every 8 weeks. Mindset work, app access. So that's the Kate Hamilton Health app, which will be your hub for everything. Weekly yoga classes, WhatsApp group community, weekly group Q&A with myself, fun challenges, daily habits form, weekly self check-in, fortnightly check-ins with your coach, a library full of lifestyle guides, a library full of lessons, seminars, and all of this is updated regularly. We have weekly group Zoom calls with myself and the team, regular guest seminars where we get experts on to talk more to you about different topics that we need experts on for. And then we have in-person events twice a year that you will get at a major discount as being a member of the Kate Hamilton Health community. As I said, this starts the first Monday of every month. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will see when the next group coaching intake is starting for you. So we close the doors as soon as that intake is full or the Monday before the group coaching starts. So usually that last Monday of the previous month. So if you head over to katehamiltonhealth.com, all of that information that I've talked through is on the website. You'll be able to book your spot for the next intake there. And I will chat to you all then.
So for instance, like, so say if you suffer from a binge eating disorder, or you have a problem with binging, you'll notice that a trigger will happen, and you'll be like responding to it very quickly, and there'll be a tiny voice in the back of your head that goes, "No, this is probably not a good idea." And then you'll be like, "Shh, just keep going," and you'll literally be shoving food into your face so fast you're out of breath. And that is because if they read the chimp paradox, it'll be similar to that. It's because your subconscious sort of self-destructive brain will be getting you to move at such a pace that your inner child or conscious brain doesn't get a chance to come online. Whereas if you actually take a minute, get into the habit of taking a minute and going, right, I have this urge. What do I want? Let me just think, is this the best choice for my goals, or is this getting further away? And sometimes it's just a choice of going, do you know what? I really fucking want that and I'm going to have it. And that's absolutely fine as long as you're making that decision, you're happy with it. But a lot of the time it just gives that wee second, if you just take that little tiny bit of time, even if it's just a minute, to allow your conscious brain to come online and say, hang on a wee second, love. Let's just take a
Yeah.
breath here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's creating that gap and
Yeah.
learning to respond rather than react. And that's
Yeah.
something that I have really learned in life, even with just like building the business and kind of making business decisions, or even just like reacting to my kids. It's the learning to like I just think about like the Beatles song Let It Be in my head. I'm always just like, hey, let it be, let it be. Really a bit like the Mel Robbins, let them kind of, but it's like just giving
Yeah.
that gap before we react immediately. Like that can be really, really hard in the moment. So I had this conversation with, I not don't know if you know Charlotte Melky she used to work
No.
with TMP. So she's one of the TMP coaches. She's a cognitive hypnotherapist. She was on the podcast and we were talking about this, and I was talking about how, creating that gap and sitting with the emotion and, finding something that doesn't take too much brain power to do to create that gap but between the emotion and the reaction, and she made the point that when we are in this situation, that's great if we can create the gap, but a lot of the time we're going to be emotionally drunk is what she calls it, like, and you kind of alluded to it there, where it's like you kind of nearly don't know what happened, like, it's like something
Yeah.
came over you, and when we're emotionally drunk it can be very, very difficult to
So
do
hard.
that. So what she says, what we need to do in that situation is like, first of all, is we always detach the guilt from it. Okay. So, a binge happens, let's say, or, if we're talking in relation to alcohol or whatever, and you've had too many drinks, you're like, shit, what happened? Oh my God, whatever it is, whether we're talking about food or alcohol or,
Yeah.
whatever, when the moment has passed, okay, and you're reflecting, you need to reflect back on it and you need to be like, what happened? What happened earlier, in the lead up to that? How did I feel? What was I looking for? What did I need in that moment
hmm
that I thought I'd get from what happened?
hmm
And did I get what I need? What do I need going forward? So, like, basically, doing that deep work afterwards, and then you can take it with you next time. And that over time, and as you learn to just kind of put curiosity towards that as it happens in the future, as you put curiosity rather than guilt and shame to it,
hmm
that you will over time overcome it that way.
hmm
Like her argument would be that that gap or that sitting with it doesn't really work in the moment, particularly initially. And I just kind of wanted to share that with you because I very much do think that going out with your dog is a great way to kind of just give
Oh yeah.
yourself
Rip
time.
yourself out of the situation if you
Yeah.
can't get away from it, because it depends. I think it depends on the situation. I think, like for instance, me, especially considering the work me and my family have done on our communication. Like if you look, it's not just me and my mom, it's me, my mom and dad, the three of us. Our dynamic has completely changed in the last 20 years. If you look at where we were whenever I was 15 compared to where we are now, it's a completely different way of handling things. So say for instance I was shaky or my dad says something I don't like, before it would have been one of us flows off the handle, we're probably like up in each other's faces, screaming screaming at each other. My mom's crying, being like, oh my God, I can't believe you're shaking at each other. It's a whole thing. It's really, really toxic. Whereas now my dad will say something and I'll be like, can I just clarify what you meant by that? And he'll clarify what he meant by that. And most of the time, that's not what I picked up at all. But also, he is a man, so there is that. And then, so we'll have to just give him grace there. Then I was just like, I'm just gonna, there's two things I really love. I said, I'm just gonna let you repeat what you said to me, and you can come back and tell me what's wrong with it when you figured it out. Or I'm just gonna go chill for a second before I respond to this. And it's the same thing if you like are like talking to a friend or you're having a discussion with a friend by text and they something that maybe like they've just said something quite bluntly, but maybe you're interpreting it as cheeky. It's kind of going like just reacting and going like at it. It's just going like
Yeah.
give yourself a wee chance to be like, I'm just not going to react to that right now. I'm going to let that sit and then come back to it whenever I actually can think with a fresh head. Because 9 times out of 10, like if you're just constantly like a tornado meets a volcano is never a good situation. You always want to like calm yourself down. But it's not just for you, the other person, or for being the bigger person or whatever. It's just literally like, how are you going to feel about your actions? And then a lot of the time, again, and emotional eating and binge eating comes from this, is it's you're more about your actions that you feel a certain way about than anything that's happened on the external and how you handle it. So, say for instance, like I had a client recently, and she had been through quite a situation that was quite traumatic, and up until that she'd been doing really well, really managing her emotional eating triggers and all of that sort of stuff. She'd been doing amazing. And this thing happened, and she noticed things sliding a wee bit, and she then started to really get down on herself, and then she ended up having a binge. And she's like, I don't know why I did that. I was doing so well. And I was like, well, you had this situation happen at the start of the week, and then you coped with that with a bit of snacking instead of reaching out for help, and then you were so annoyed about the fact that things weren't perfect and you had let things slide, that then that resulted in you beating yourself up with a binge.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my god, yeah, that was proper self-harming. And I was like, it's punishment, it can be self-harming, it can be emotional suppressive consumption, it can be a million different things in one. That's the thing, is that like it is a grey area, and I think that people need to realise that, as things are quite multifaceted. It's never just one thing or another. It can be both shoving down feelings and punishing yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then how you feel about that as a result.
Yeah, and I think even if we're not talking about the extremes of binging, even
No.
just with like creating new habits,
Yeah.
if you cannot seem to get a habit in place, or or
Yeah.
you can't kick something that's just kind of getting in the way of you reaching your goals or whatever it is, I think it's because you don't know why you're doing it, or you don't know why you're not doing it, and you're not willing, like, you not that you're not willing, you haven't yet done the deep work to the why.
It's
So,
also, as well, sometimes you've picked a plan that's so outside of where you're at right now that you're setting yourself up for failure, and then you're
mhm,
giving yourself a really hard time for failing. So again, this is something I see with all my clients who tend to be ex-Slimming Club members, or people who have poor relationship with food, things like that. And a lot of the time people will say, for example, they'll be like, right, diet starts Monday, my fitness pal says 1,200 calories, that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to train every day this week. I'm going to get my 10,000 steps. And meanwhile, these people might have been having 4 takeaways a week, haven't fought the gym in 6 months, and have literally their step average for the last like 3 weeks has been 3,000. And they're giving themselves this thing. And then let's say they miss their gym session on Thursday or Friday. Oh, that's it. The whole thing's fucked now. I'm a failure. And then it's straight into the Chinese takeaway on the way home, because like, fuck it. Like, why not?
yeah,
Done now. And I think, as well as, like, you have to be realistic about your expectations. So let's say that last gym session doesn't get done because you have kids, or because you're tired, or because it's poor planning, or because that gym session is actually better moved to the weekend because that is more sustainable for you. Then, rather than going to go and then giving yourself a hard time, so a lot of people will miss that their gym session, and then their thought process will be, fuck it, sure, it's fucked now, I'll get a Chinese. Whereas actually what they're telling themselves, see, you're a failure, so we're just going to feel harder. And
yeah,
it's then it'll be like pushing down the feeling of failure, but also punishing themselves for failing. So it just depends. There's so many different facets to it, and this is the thing. It's like emotional eating, binge eating, all that sort of stuff. Like I said, we don't even have to go to that extreme. It's like that perfectionism, and I work with a lot of clients who have that very everything has to be perfect or it's shite mentality, and then it's about diving into where that comes from as well, and really reverse engineering that too, which takes a lot of time. I have a client actually who just graduated out of the program last month, and she just now is just a different girl. Like, she would have given herself, I mean, the worst time if like one of her kids' birthdays didn't go exactly the way she wanted. It would have been like, I'm the worst mother in the world, and she would have like been in floods of tears. And now she's just like, oh well,
yeah.
I did my best. Do you know what I mean?
I
So
know. And I think this is where a lot of online coaches miss the mark. That, that they can work with people that have no problem tracking their calories, getting their
mhm.
workouts in. It's like, here's your calories, here's your macros, here's your workouts, this steps. And they're like, do this and you'll drop X pounds per week or whatever. And, then all they have to do is adjust and tweak, adjust and tweak. And they think that that's the job. Whereas I think
Sorry.
but there's so many online coaches that do think that that's what it is. And maybe with people who are age 22 and don't have any other problems in their life, that works. Like, but
Yeah, of
for
course.
real people, well, actually, it would never have worked for me when I was 22. I had too
No,
much
me
other
either.
things going on in my life. Too busy
No,
living my best
I was
life.
too busy eating
Yeah.
cheesy curry chips.
But I think that when you realize that it's real people that we're working with, real people like me, real people like you, it's not a case that someone has to, that everybody's so different. But it is this perfectionism. It's the all or nothing, and it stems from, like, our childhoods, it stems from what the media we were consuming growing up, it stems from the slimming clubs, it stems from what we're seeing online now. It's like, "Oh, I need to be hitting 10,000 steps, I need to be getting 4 workouts in a week, I need to be doing this," and it's like, "Okay, hold on a second, where," like, exactly what you said, where are you at? We
Hmm.
start there, like, and one of the first questions I will get from clients, well, actually 2, is, "Do I need to hit 10,000 steps a day?" And the other one is, "My calories are too high." Which
Yeah.
we'll put a pin in that one because that's a good one to go back to. But with the 10,000 steps, I'm like, "No," like, if you're someone who currently like, you want to start moving more, and you
Hmm.
currently only get 2,000 steps a day in, maybe aim
Yeah.
for 3, 4,000 steps, you know what I mean? Just aim to just add a walk into your day. Be someone that walks every day rather than,
Totally. And build it
yeah,
up.
rather than someone who has to do 10,000 steps or 5 kilometers or whatever it is per day. Like, these rigid rules are
Hmm.
just creating new prisons for yourself, and they're not sustainable. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to, like, the calories, it's funny, I was actually talking to a client about this on Monday on a call. This cycle of, and you kind of alluded to it there, that, like, you're tracking all week or whatever, and then the weekend just goes to shit, and you just kind of can't, you're going around in circles with this
Mhm.
kind of this cycle of diet starts Monday.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like a full on binge, but it's like you just can't stick with your calories at the weekend.
Mhm.
You want to lose body fat and you're trying to stick to a calorie deficit. And the thing is, dieting, like, effectively dieting for a period of time and trying to diet, it feels the same. It's just as exhausting. And you can only do it for a certain amount of time until you need a diet break. Like, and,
Yeah.
and things need to be brought to maintenance, and you can only do it in phases. Like, you can't diet 52 weeks of the year. You can pretend, you can think you're dieting for years on end, but you're not. And you're going around in circles. And the trick here is, when you find, like, there's a few weeks, and this is just happening over and over again, stop torturing yourself and bring the calories up. Bring the calories up to maintenance. Track your whole week at maintenance. You can even bank a little bit during the week. Track it. Just
Mhm.
get into grips. Like, as this client I was talking to, she was like, something happens on a Friday and I just switch off, and I can't track. I switch off from everything. And it's not that I'm massively overeating, but I'm not tracking. I just can't do it. And I'm
Tracking
like,
that.
yeah,
That's how I like, 'cause I have clients like that as well. And it's like, well, track it on a Thursday.
yeah,
If you know you're going out for dinner, just type in roast beef Sunday.
track ahead. Yeah,
Track ahead, and then it's just like, but then you can just go back and change it, and it's
yeah,
not because they need to track all their food or anything like that. It's because it's actually allowing you to kind of go, no, I actually just can go back and change things, because this
yeah,
my clients have this thing like, oh, but I don't know how to track that. Take a photo and send it to me, or like, or for one, or also like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to be having, or they'll for some reason, and I'm just like, well, you could just, if you know you're going out for dinner and you're probably going to have lasagna and a portion of chips, track that on like Saturday morning, and then on Monday just go back and alter it to whatever you had. Add in a couple of glasses of red wine, a couple of fireball shots, whatever it is you need to do. But it's not just, it's just like like a gathering of data, so that if your results aren't what you want them to be, you can kind of see why.
yeah.
Because that is something that I used to struggle with, is like, I would, again, and I think this is something, if you have sort of binged or have emotional eating, you get literally food amnesia. You're like, I haven't had that. I don't eat that much. It's about removing the confusion and taking your power back more than anything. So it just depends.
And, like, even when it comes to tracking will not be forever, and particularly if we are talking
Yeah.
down the route of eating disorder, which is not my area of focus. My area of focus obviously is much more kind of general. But
Yeah.
what I find that is useful about tracking your calories is, again, it's like with when we talk about reflecting on the binge or whatever, it's detaching the guilt. It's using it as data,
Yeah.
being like, okay,
It's
just start tracking where you're at. See, like, track everything you eat.
yeah.
Make so then you're conscious, you know what you've eaten, and
Hmm.
you can see the numbers. So then, like, if you're consuming 4,000 calories a day, by simply reducing that slightly,
Uh-huh.
you're making progress in the right direction. And
Exactly. And it's just about giving you information. And I think that people see, well, like they'll see, like, I know I've worked with people like this before, where they'll see the numbers. I didn't track it because whenever I see the numbers, then I feel like I failed. And I'm like, right, okay, and have
yeah,
you failed, or is it just that's what you've been doing, and now you're seeing what you've been doing to yourself, and then you actually don't really like how you've been treating yourself?
yeah,
You don't need to feel guilty about that. You don't need to rip yourself a new arsehole. You need to ask yourself, do I deserve better than this?
yeah. But
And
also a really good
that can
point
be really uncomfortable for people
yeah,
too.
That
Because they're
really,
like,
really
it
uncomfortable.
can be really uncomfortable because you do deserve, everyone deserves better than this as well. And this is the thing, we're in such a blessed situation to even have this as a problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That we have to even think about it, but it's about actually going, even though it is actually, it's horrible when you have the worst relationship with food, and it's like, even saying that it's a blessing to have it as a problem, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it is just what to be in the position where we have the freedom to make a choice. And I know it sounds like we don't, like, feel sometimes that we don't have a choice, but we do. And it's just about actually looking at it for yourself and going, is this what I deserve? If somebody else was treating me like this, how would I feel about that person?
Yeah.
And how would I feel? Would I want them near me? Would I trust them to look after me? Would I trust them to take me home after a night out? Would I trust them to go for a promotion of my job? Would I trust them to like hug my mum? And it's
Mm.
these different things that you have to look after yourself, because that is the relationship you're building with you. And I think, again, like I said, it's taking a step back and getting so honest with yourself. And that's what I had to do, was actually whenever I tracked a binge for the first time and I could not believe the numbers, I was like, holy fucking shit, I've actually convinced myself that I should be losing weight, and here's me eating 6,000 calories 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And I was fully like sobbing in the office because I didn't know why I wasn't losing weight, and it was because I wasn't tracking my binges.
Yeah.
And then that would leave me confused, because I would generally be like, but I don't eat that much, because you convince yourself that you haven't. Do you get me?
Yeah. No,
And
100%.
just to go back to what you're saying about consistency and dieting, yeah, dieting is something that can't be done for ages. But this is the crazy thing, is that we live in a society where eating real food is considered dieting.
Yeah.
And that is the crazy thing, is that like, and this is what I work with my clients, is it's a lot of people will view their diet as, let me just get to this goal and then I can go back to normal. Normal got you here, you can never go back there. You have
Yeah.
got to let it go. So say for instance, for me, myself, whenever my normal was like 2 to 3 takeaways a week, and like crisp and chocolate every day, not just like the odd wee Freddo and the odd wee packet of wisps. It was like a share bag and a share bar at least. And do you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, I should be able to eat what I want. Like, this isn't fair. I train really hard and all this here stuff. And then whenever I actually was like, oh, right, yeah, that's actually not normal. It's just been normalized by society. So we're actually not, what we need to do is create habits. Like, let's let go of that old habits that we had of the takeaways. Not that doesn't mean you can never have takeaway again. Of course you can. It's not as often. It just means that you have to kind of let go of that previous version of you and actually start creating new habits that mean you never have to worry about it again, which means that you'll never be dieting again. And that's what we actually have to work towards. But it's very difficult to get to that point, and it takes a lot of rewiring of those habits, because it's the day in and day out, every choice being like, this is what's best for me, and making those choices 90% of the time, and then having like your margarita and your meal out on a Saturday night, but making, not that your only indulgence, but you know what I mean, not taking the complete
Yeah.
piss apart from that.
And I think the step to do what you're saying, because I totally agree with you, it is like what you want to do is, as you're taking things on, you want to be like, this is for life. So don't do something to lose weight that you're not willing to do forever, because as soon as you
Yeah,
stop doing it, you know what I mean? Like if you hate running, don't start fucking running. Like, you know what I mean? You don't have
exactly.
to,
You're
but
creating a
whatever
new
it
normal
is.
for yourself.
But I think the trick with letting go of the things that no longer serve you is done by crowding them out. By starting by putting things in.
Yeah,
What can I add to my life? What can I
yeah,
add to my plate? What can I add to my diet?
mhm,
And that's if you look at it, and then you're looking at it as from mindset of abundance, and
yeah,
then
totally.
it the little bits fall off then. And then, oh yeah,
Mm,
like, so like I remember initially when I started trying to eat better, it was like I wanted to have a protein smoothie in the morning, but I really missed my toast and butter.
uh-huh.
So I used to say, right, I'll have my protein smoothie and then I'll have my toast and butter for like dessert.
Yeah,
So I did that for ages, and I was really fucking full. And after
yeah.
a while, I was like, "Oh, do you know what? I actually
One,
don't want my toast now." So then
mhm.
it ended up my toast just went to with my scrambled eggs at lunch instead. You know what I mean?
Sort
So
of.
suddenly it just fell off. Like, but that's just like a minor example. But over time, like we go
Yeah,
back to just tie things up with
mhm,
taking the time limit off. When you take the time limit off,
yeah.
you these things will fall off. Like you obviously that it's going to require focus, it's going to require effort, but it'll also feel really, really good. It'll feel hard, but it will also feel good along the way. And it's never about like restricting to the point that you're miserable
No,
for life.
no, of
And
course not. If anything, you want to add more, like for example, like Freddos, like let's say they're 45p now, so there's no way in God's green earth I'm paying 45p for a Freddo over my dead body. So I am buying the 5 Freddos in Home Bargains for 150. The problem is that one Freddo tastes like 5. So instead of being like I can only have one Freddo and this is the only thing I have and I can't have anything else, have a Freddo, have a yogurt with it, have some pineapple and a few raspberries and a handful of popcorn. Create yourself a snack plate. It's 250 calories or 300 calories depending on your brand of yogurt. And then you're also getting like 20 grams of protein, maybe even a wee baby meal in there. And you're also getting more volume. You're not going to overeat that, but you're actually adding more to your plate rather than you're giving yourself more to get your result, which is, do you know what I mean? It's about what you can add. It's like, can I add a little bit of time for myself here? Can I add a bit more energy here? And I think people view a healthy lifestyle as major sacrifice, but actually what you're actually doing is choosing freedom. And this is the thing, is that like I used to refuse, but like, oh my God, I do not want to restrict my food. I want complete freedom over everything I eat. But by giving myself complete and total freedom over everything I eat, and I say freedom in inverted commas because if anything, food had me in a chokehold, so it was the opposite. But by giving myself complete freedom over what I wanted to eat, I took freedom away from every other aspect of my life, my physical capabilities, how I felt about myself, what I was able to wear, things I was able to physically do, my confidence, my happiness, like my ability to travel. So anything like putting an outfit together, packing for a trip became an Olympic sport. So by deciding I want a complete total freedom over my food, it took away freedom for other aspects of my life. If I give myself a little bit more restriction over my food, and that doesn't mean that you only lick a lettuce leaf and sip a Diet Coke, it means that you nourish your body with good whole foods 90% of the time and still have a little bit of what you fancy. By adding a little bit more discipline and like structure to what I eat, I give myself more freedom in every other aspect of my life because my clothes fit better. I feel more confident. Getting dressed doesn't feel like I want to absolutely rip my fingernails out in frustration. Like I get excited about trips. I get excited about weddings. I am actually physically capable of going on a hike. If my friend asked me to go on a paddleboard and sounds great, instead of rather I want to shoot myself in the face because I won't be able to stand up on the board. Like different things like that. And it actually gives you, it's like a freedom exchange. So this is the thing. If you want, you actually have to ask yourself, what is actually freedom and what is a cage that you're refusing to fly out of. Oh, baby.
What a way to finish. And I'll actually finish this point, right? The best bit of advice I ever got when it came to making decisions and stop, breaking away from these rules and prisons that you kind of create for yourself with these diets, or, or the freedoms that you create for yourself to create new prisons for you, is just asking in every moment, asking yourself this one question: is this an act of love for yourself? Like just, and like I live by this now. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't an act of love. And you know what I mean? But it just brings that self-awareness. I just think it's so powerful.
100%.
Nicole, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I could keep talking to you all day, but
never thank me for talking. I will be here all day.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And if anyone would like to reach out to you, find out a bit more about what you do, is Instagram the best place to do that?
Diet Starts on Monday _ on Instagram. My profile picture is me in a bright orange dress. You'll find me. I'm about there somewhere.
Thanks, Nicole. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And I would just ask for one thing from you. If at all possible, could you make sure that you subscribe to the podcast? It really does make such a difference. If there's a particular episode that you've enjoyed, please do share it in your WhatsApp groups, share it on your stories, tag myself and the guest in your stories. All of these things really do help to grow the podcast. And obviously, if there's anything you'd like to reflect on, please do leave a comment. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next one.